basically you get over the initial shock and then you go back to life as normal, even though nobody really experienced life as normal again. You know, his teammates remembered him, his friends remembered him, but it was almost not like we were shamed, but it was like, well, you know, get back to what you're doing. You're here for a reason. My name is Jennifer Rasmussen Buckingham, and I was a student athletic trainer at the University of Michigan from 1995 until 1999. Met Jeff the fall of my junior year, and we just started dating and had lots of fun, got to know his roommates and some of his teammates, and started to learn a little bit about the sport of wrestling. He was intense, but lots of fun. Like whatever he did was, you know, all in, right? But was real passionate about the sport of wrestling and had the mentality of, you know, do what it takes to be successful and compete and win. So I remember him having to say he had to lose 17 pounds in 3 days. And I remember saying, ooh, that sounds like a lot of weight. And the last thing I ever said to him, because he stopped over at my house before he was going to do all that weight cutting, and I just said, Jeff, be careful. And that was it. And he left. And then I remember the night of the 9th, being in my room with a couple friends. We were studying for an upcoming exam, and we had been studying a long time, and I remember wanting to take a break. So I'm like, I'm going to call Jeff and check in. And I called him, and his roommate, Corey, picked up. And Corey was like, Jen? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, get over here right now. I don't really remember exactly, but I get over there, and like his roommate, Corey, and I remember his roommate, Phil, I believe, and maybe Joe, and he had another roommate. They were all there just like super upset. And then Corey told me, he's like, Jeff died. And that's kind of how he said it. I'm like, what? How? And then from there, it was just like, I became the girlfriend of the wrestler that died, or the former girlfriend, right? But there really wasn't a lot of like psychological counseling for anybody. Like, we really didn't talk about it. Like my friends and I did, my roommates, the gymnasts, we'd talk about it, and, you know, his teammates, they'd celebrate him at different things and whatnot. But yeah, there was really no help, just shock and move on. I remember too that Jeff's roommates had said that they were supposed to get all A's, because if you have a roommate who dies, you're supposed to get all A's. And I don't know where they pulled that from, but you know, they kind of half joked about it. But in a way, it was almost like a cry for help for them to say, hey, listen, you need to hear us. We need help, right? So there could have been something that could have been done at that point. But I think that that's very telling of the times. Like, people wanted help, but didn't know where to get it. And people didn't really offer the help because they didn't know how to give it. That was the norm back then, you know, grieve and get over the shock and then move on. Like, you know, we got to get back to life, got to get back to our routine. And really only if an individual brought it up, would something get discussed, or you could get help. I'm sure that there was help available, but it was not proactive in the sense of, hey, this is our job. We're going to go seek out the students that need the help. Really, the only changes that I really knew about was the weight class shifts. They increased what weight classes they had. And then there were some stricter guidelines about exercising with, you know, barriers like plastic suits or wetsuits on top of jumpsuits, sweatsuits, whatever you want to call it. And then working out in a sauna and the temperature of the room and all that. I think a lot of that was more more closely monitored or completely put on like you can't do that anymore. And then they had to have more medical staff around for weigh-ins, like somebody who was licensed or certified, either as a doctor or as a certified athletic trainer. Like they were the ones that had to do the weigh-ins, and so it just brought to life a little bit more medical importance, so things like this wouldn't happen again.
Following the death of Michigan wrestler Jeff Reese, University of Michigan Wrestling created intermittent policies recommended by the Task Force on Weigh-in Criteria for Wrestling. The start date was set to December 27, 1997. Monday, April 13th, 1998, the National Collegiate Athletic Association Committee recommends rule changes to D1, D2, and D3 championship committees. 1. The practice of dehydration, use of laxatives and emetics, excessive food and fluid restrictions, self-induced vomiting, hot rooms, hot boxes, saunas, and steam rooms is prohibited. Diuretics at any time are not permitted by NCAA legislation for all sports. Using vapor impermeable suits like rubber or rubberized nylon is not permitted. In addition to this rule, wrestling practice rooms must be kept at a temperature not exceeding 75 degrees Fahrenheit. 2. Each school must have a physician or athletic trainer conduct an initial weight assessment of its wrestling student athletes during the dates of October 1st through 7th, using body weight, body composition, and specific gravity of urine. A figure consisting of the athlete's lean body weight plus 5% body fat will be used to establish a minimum weight. Each wrestler would have the option of modifying this weight over 8 weeks under the following guidelines. A. No more than 1.5% of body weight could be lost per week. And B. The final weight could not fall below the calculated minimum wrestling weight. The final certification period is December 1st through 7th, where a weight class would be set for the rest of the year. 3. Weigh-ins for dual matches will be held 1 hour before the start of the first match of the meet. For tournaments, weigh-ins will be held 2 hours before the start of the first match on the first day of all tournaments, and 1 hour before the first match begins on subsequent days of tournaments. For dual meets, athletes may step on and off the scale 3 times in succession to allow for mechanical inconsistencies. And tournaments, athletes can step on each available scale once without leaving the weigh-in area. Traditional sequence of weight classes would be maintained throughout tournaments. 4. For tournaments, multiple day weigh-ins with no weight allowance will be conducted under the parameters in number 3 above. 5. Weight classes will be changed to the following, all measured in pounds: 125, 133, 141, 149, 157, 165, 174, 184, 197, and 285. 6. All wrestling coaches, including volunteers, will be required to be certified in CPR and first aid by the first practice date. The Jeff Reese Scholarship Fund began in January 1998. Then, in 1999, Mock Rock was created in honor to raise money for the Jeff Reese Endowed Scholarship. Mock Rock is a University of Michigan athletics event that showcases student-athlete talents and supports the community that supports Michigan athletics. Today, about 15 varsity teams participate in the Mock Rock Talent Show every winter, where student-athletes use this event to fundraise for a beneficiary in the community. Over time, this event has evolved into even more than a fundraiser. There are autograph sessions where fans can meet their favorite student-athletes, and the judges consist of former Michigan athletes and even current coaches.